Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Pies Presser. Justin Leppich has set up the landscape for the next 10 coming days as we are now in an AFL trade period. It's time to talk all things black and white. Good evening, all. I hope we are all doing super well on this Monday night. We have begun, officially commenced the AFL trade period, which takes us all the way through to Wednesday next week, which also has me thinking that that is the first period of delisted free agency that we see as well. Let me check my notes and see if that is the case. Off-season key periods, okay. So as we know it, the trade or free agency period, 3rd of October to the 10th of October. And then next week, delisted free agency will overlap the trade period. So delisted free agency will start next Monday, the 13th of October, and then the 14th of October, and then it closes. And then from there, delisted free agency will reopen post-draft, which is on the 21st of November. So that's the trade period. Yeah. How are we all doing? How are we all doing? Welcome, Melissa. Hey, thoughts. Hey, champ. And everyone else, what are your thoughts on getting Oliver and Butters? Look, every party from each club today that is a part of the list strategy team, they all denied that Butters is going anywhere. But I think everyone's keeping their cards close to their chest. You wouldn't think Port Adelaide would say, yeah, we're a little bit worried, or yeah, we might let him go. I think, let's see how that pans out. I think it's the same thing for Bailey Humphrey as well. They're never going until they are. Same thing was almost very similar case with Dan Houston last year. And we can pick many, many more examples where players don't seem like they're going anywhere. They're contracted till this year and they're getting paid this much and they live here and they've grown up there. Oscar Allen, hello, anybody. And then they go. I know Oscar Allen's a bit of a different situation, but I remember a couple of years ago, people saying, he won't leave. He's homegrown. He's the captain of his childhood club. And look where he is now, or where he's going to be. Yeah? So we keep that in mind. But Oliver and Butters in this window, look, if you want my view on it, obviously I'm going to assume that we don't get Butters, but I'm pretty not confident, but it's really with Oliver, Melissa, it comes down to GWS and the Pies. Now, GWS, as I've mentioned a couple of times already, have the advantage of not being in the Melbourne bubble. And if Clary doesn't want to be in this bubble no longer, then he will go to Sydney, go to New South Wales. I think that might be a good thing for him personally. Lifestyle, and just like, as I mentioned, staying away from that bubble that is. But if he wants to stay in Melbourne, then I think Collingwood is the option. We're not hearing many other names, are we? We're hearing GWS, we're hearing Collingwood. I think that's it. So it's every chance. I'd take Butters over Oliver if it came down to either of them, but having both would be sensational. Imagine having those two at the Pies would be difficult. Frank says Butters going nowhere 2026, hopefully free agent 2027. That's what we're hearing through the professional lens of things. But you just never know. You just never know. Antoni, welcome. Chris Talbot, welcome. Stefanos, welcome. Voidoid. Zachariah Debussy, we're not picking up shit. Yasu Ramoto, the Cheezels have finished, says George Frosinos. The Cheezels have finished. What do you mean? Only Jack Buller and Zach McCarthy, hopefully. So, Zachariah, you're not confident we're a chance with Clayton Oliver? Interesting. Dan Houston is garbage. Cost us nice. I give Dan Houston the benefit of the doubt in his first year, like we did with Lockie Schultz. Now look at the way we appreciate Lockie Schultz in his second year. Why can't that be the same for Dan Houston? Pies 2324. Hey Benny, welcome my friend. Shifty thinking Hill and Allen for West Coast. Pick 2. Gold Coast pick 614. Give that to Port to have a stronger draft hand. Oliver would be interesting to have. What's the max you would want Collingwood to pay for him? I think it's going to be somewhere around 650, Benny. Which for a player who has been one of the best midfielders in the league at times, it's not like he's washed. It's not like he's super old and he's on a decline. Like there should be hope that we can turn him into a player that is going to play a strong role for the club. And we use the word role because that's what we need him to do. We need him to feed the ball to Nick Dacos, and that should be his role, pressure, and just fitting into the culture seamlessly. Oliver wants to stay in Victoria. Says, Mello, what makes you think that? Joshy says, hey, everyone, we have settled for Oliver being our big fish this year. If he chooses us, no chance of getting on anyone else. I don't mind it. The only way you bring any other big fish is sending players to different clubs. So that's that. Shifty thinking Hill and Allen for West Coast pick 2. And then Gold Coast pick 614. Give that to Port and have a stronger draft hand. Yeah, look, there's so many permutations that you must go through and outgoing players, but Leper, and we have to take this with a grain of salt when Leper said Bobby Hill's not going anywhere. We just signed him on a 5-year contract. So then you sort of, can you take his word for it? You have to take as much of his word as possible. You'd want to think you could trust someone that they're not looking at shopping around, because you're hearing different things. And we know journos don't get it right all the time, but we have to admit that they might get things wrong, but they do get things right. So you must look into every possibility and try and make sense of it yourself. You're either going to be wrong, you're going to be right. That's okay. You can't be 100%, can you? We all knew clubs say one thing and do another thing. That's exactly right. Ella Andreas, Collingwood in control of the Clayton Oliver deal because Checkers will now be going to Melbourne through a trade. Collingwood will offer him and pick 38 for Clayton Oliver and a future third. Maybe. So I understand Brody Myercheck going in a trade will fancy Melbourne, but you have to keep in mind, like, if he wants to, here's the thing. Clayton Oliver's been told to look elsewhere, right? So if he wants to go to GWS, then he will go to GWS. He's being told to look elsewhere. He will have, I'm sure he has some sort of control in where he would have ultimate autonomy in choice and control in which club he wants to land at. If he says, I want to go to GWS, I'm sure Melbourne will respect that decision. So there's that you must factor in. But then pick 38. So if we get rid of pick 38, that means we have to trade in, we spoke about it yesterday, we'll have to trade in a future second. No, we'll have to give away a future second to bring in one of another club's current second round pick so that we can still get Zach McCarthy, who could be anywhere between 400 to 600 points. So if pick 38 goes, then you might have to, you might have to make multiple pick swaps from future years to bring into here. And there's always a tax on paying for the present moment. So paying for the present picks in the 2025 draft, you always have to pay overs. Ultimate greatness. Oliver is going to be awesome. He's a plug and play type. It's only the off-field stuff that has any concerns. Imagine how relieved Long will be now he has a partner in crime as he can focus more outside. Greatness, what do you mean Ned Long can focus more outside? Because the way I see Ned Long is he is an inside player, and I'd be surprised if he could add the outside string to his bow. Like Tom Mitchell, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm misreading your comment. At around $650K a year and in a new environment, Oliver's a no-brainer. Yeah, anyone that thinks we get pick 2 for Bobby Hill and Allen must be delusional. Yeah, and that's what I keep saying about Ed Allen. Firstly, I'd like to see Ed Allen see out his contract next year at the Pies, because next year is when we truly find out whether he's going to be a role player at AFL level or a good player at AFL level. And I'd hate to move him to West Coast and then we find out by way of him representing a different club. And then to also add in the fact that you think throwing Ed Allen into a trade with Bobby Hill would get you pick 2. Doesn't work like that. That would be a catastrophe for West Coast. Our draft pick number 38 was supposed to get Thomas McGowan, now going to Melbourne for Oliver. Yeah, I mean, like, so once again, all right, let's have a look here. I'll just share my screen. Be better. Currently, this is how many draft points we have, right? 402 draft points. That is all attached to pick 34, which slides down to a 38 or something like that because of all the compensation. So we'll update that. That's 400. It's roughly 400 points, okay? This pick was going to go to McGowan, right? But then we also will likely need to trade a future pick from 2026 to add to this draft hand, ideally an early second rounder, so that we can get this guy. I've got this guy in orange now because we're just not sure. He might get plucked by another club. And then you got Jai Saxena, who's a forward of the Chargers that could come through as a rookie, but then once again, you can also hope. You'd like to think that if he does not get selected in the national draft, McGowan, you'd like to think that we are at least going to rookie list him. Like, okay, to see he's not going to be a first round pick, fair enough. And to see he's not going to be a second round pick in a draft, fair enough. But to not be selected in the draft entirely would be interesting, would be very interesting. Ned can play inside, but his run and athleticism is an extremely underrated part of his game. If it wasn't a big frame, he'd be an awesome wingman. Thankfully, he's a beast in and out, just like Bont. Ah, come on, bro. That is the worst call I've ever heard from you, Shawnee. Okay. Thankfully, he's a beast in and out. And then you also mention just like Bont. Come on. You've lost your head. Ned Long is an inside player. He's not an outside player. Inside players, just because they can run really well, doesn't mean you're an outside player. An outside player naturally insinuates, yes, you can run, but you're also a player that receives the ball from the inside and is able to damage you by foot, by dissecting. Yes, we can take Stephen May off. Thank you, Chris Talbot. Appreciate you. If he wants to stay in Melbourne, I think we go for him. I mean, look what Fly said, but also don't be underestimating the power of the Jackie Lauder for JDG. He was a bit off the rails, and now look at him. What? Shame wingmen need to be able to kick. Yeah, when you're getting the player the ball on the outside, hanging out as a winger, and then you have this time to distribute the ball, you'd want to hope that they can kick the ball. That's the whole idea behind it. Ned Long, not a high contested ball winner. He won 249 and 290 uncontested. He's not that big of a contested player as what everyone thinks. Put Oliver in orange in the list. Oh, we haven't got Oliver. Okay, thank you, Melissa. All over it. Keeping me honest, guys. I appreciate it. Are we keeping Steve-O here, or should we fuck him off? And what about Caminiti? Have not heard his name once. We heard. Yeah, take Steve-O off. Says, we'll leave them there. We'll leave them there. We'll make them less likely. We'll give them orange. These guys were mentioned once or twice. This guy was actually mentioned. Caminiti was actually mentioned on Gettable. Ungettable. Steve-O is more fan theory, but we'll keep him there. Okay, and then we said add Oliver. Add Oliver, okay. Sorry, the pace of content, it's locked, that's why. Bang, bang. Should keep Jack Buller in orange. Well, green maybe means just like likely. And maybe, and then that means if that's the case, then Saxon is not likely. He's more orange. And then we change that to Oliver. Okay. How's that? So Blight, like we're not certain about Jacob Blight, but there's been some good signs that we're keen. Steve-O isn't happening, 0% chance. Take it to the bank. You know what? I'm going to start taking photos of your take it to the banks, guys, because when you guys say take it to the bank, that means you know something. That means you absolutely know something. Hold on. And I'm going to keep these for future reference. Point it out. Greatness, take it to the bank. Bang. I'm going to have a take it to the bank series because Peter Nutt, guys, said, what did he say? He said something about, I have to get my phone. Where's my phone? Peter Nutt said something about being an absolute certainty, take it to the bank, and it didn't happen. I think he said Jack Silvani was an absolute certainty, take it to the bank, and then he doesn't get signed. Yeah, red out, orange means chance, green means could be yes. All right, so let's go. All right then. No, you know what's reasonable? We don't know. We still don't know about these players, so we'll make them orange. There's a chance. Who do we know is definitely coming in? Buller and McCarthy. I think that's fair. Yeah? Jack Steele was cooked and he didn't even finish top 10. Who's saying Jack Steele? Buller is happening, yes? Yep. Jack Steele will be going to Essendon, says Stewie. Has Curnow spoken about any clubs of interest? I mean, Xander leaks on prelim final week that the Pies have inquired about Curnow, but that was one that fell dead on its legs. It didn't really go anywhere beyond that. Emma says, what about the compensation you get based on where you finished on a ladder? We placed 4th this year, but it might help in the national draft for points gathering. I am still learning about this. What about the compensation you get? So we finished 4th or technically 3rd according to the finals ladder, which means if we had our first round pick, Emma, we would have had pick, I'll open this up as well. Give me 1 second. Just so we have a clear picture. 0 hanger draft order. So your point, I get your point, and essentially it doesn't really mean anything as to where we finish when it comes to the first round, because we gave away our first round pick to Gold Coast in that 3-way trade. So had we held on to our first round pick, we would have been pick 17 once you throw in all the compensation there, right? But it does have an effect here because this is where we're placed with that. 277 draft points. I do need to change that because it's all changed now. 277 is all we have because nothing after pick 40 gives you any draft points. There you go. I'm about to smash a large meat lovers pizza. Take it to the bank. Unreal. Justin Lepich shitting himself. Take it to the bank. What do you mean, Dom? So sad about McGuan. Really wanted him in the draft. Don't mind him. Yeah, I mean, it's the sentiment would have been nice, and he was hyped up last year. It is what it is. He could still wear the black and white. Who knows? Silvani's a tough one. I heard some nice things about it till it didn't happen. I'm happy to give Peter a pass to that. The club was convinced. Interesting. Yeah, we finished 3rd technically according to the finals ladder. Bruno, welcome. Yep. Start of the trade period, day one. So the landscape has been set. So we're keen on Oliver. Things will get rolling there in the next couple of days, according to Lepic. Jack Buller, Sydney have some bigger fish to fry right now with regards to Charlie Curnow. So maybe that's something that happens later in the trade period. So the trade period started today and will end next Wednesday. So it's a bit of a madness. Do you think players are allowed too much flexibility regarding mental health and external issues? They're heavily compensated for the stresses they endure. I have empathy, but it's a business. Yeah, I think they are. When you look at Jamarra Ugle-Hagan, who has probably has been paid while not featuring at VFL or AFL level this year. Same goes with Bobby Hill. He didn't play for 3 months. So I think there's a bit of leeway there. I don't know why, but it is what it is. Can still get McGuan, yep. And that's the thing, like we're saying, right? So with this pick, which was intended to be used on McGuan, this maybe goes to Oliver. This maybe goes to another player in a draft that we like around this mark. But the fact of the matter is we definitely have to add to this to get McCarthy. All good, Emma. Chris, I reckon the next few days. Chris Lepper said due diligence and if passes that he will fly to Sydney Wednesday. Oliver does something stupid off field during preseason, take it to the bank. Damn. Mr. Mark Neville is here. Oh dear. Uh-oh. I really want Butters. If not next year, then 2027. Yeah. It'd be more realistic next year. For sure. This year, it's going to be difficult if we don't trade away players. And it doesn't seem right now, as of what Justin Lepic has said this morning, it doesn't seem like we're looking to trade away players to bring in a big fish. That's where we're at right now. But things can change, as we know. Rookie is a real possibility. The club has a plan. Trust the process. Who's to say he can't do an Ollie Henry? At McCarthy and Saxon might go through the rookie draft. McCarthy, early second. Maybe back end of the first round. I'm taking my shotty and ski mask to the bank. What else are we saying? So, see you, Ava. Have a good night. So we know Stephen May is no longer in the picture. Lepic confirmed that today. Now, as much as it doesn't matter, the curiosity in me wants to know why we are steering away from Stephen May. Is it because the leadership said no? Is it because he failed a medical? Maybe, guys, I said this in my video about our backline. Maybe we're just not stressed about our personnel in the backline right now. Because if we were, maybe we would have brought in Tomlinson during the year. Maybe we would have brought in another VFL prospect. Maybe we would have brought in Stephen May at the end in this trade period. Maybe we would have paid overs to get Jack Silvani, but we didn't bend over backwards in any of those instances. So to me, it says like our issue isn't the backline, and we know that we're the number one side in the league when it comes to defense for 2025, and maybe we're more reliant on the system playing a forward half game to help set up the defensive unit, and then maybe that's why we're passing on certain players like a Stephen May to ensure that we can try something like this, and who knows what else there is. He failed a medical. Feels like it's a good excuse to back out, though. I mean, you're not doing a medical and then hoping he fails so you can back out. if you're getting someone to do a medical, you want them to pass so you can have them play for your side. So I wouldn't believe that Collingwood went into it hoping Stephen May would fail the medical. Our backline is shaky. It holds up, but there's no real reinforcement. Well, I don't know. I don't know about that, Voidoid. The numbers are the numbers. Number one side in the backline until otherwise. As long as we're setting up beautifully in our forward half and we're asserting ourselves in that way, we seem to go all right with these back shoulder defenders like a Billy Frampton, Darcy Moore, these guys who aren't necessarily good when running back to goal, and that is a very difficult skill to possess. As long as we're playing in this fashion, I think we go okay. Who knows what Reef does? Yeah, I think at least for next year, we aren't hell-bent on getting another key defender. Is McCarthy locked in? That's why he's in green? Yeah. So I've just buttered. So green is locked in and yellow is chance. Or orange is chance, sorry. Stephen May failed the psych test. Backline holds up, but forward line doesn't. Yeah. And that look at the player we've already locked in. Buller's coming in. And then maybe the next biggest issue is the midfield. Or equally in some ways. When I say issue, we're looking at where we can strengthen our side. Blight is a chance. He's done a medical. There was rumours before that, and now it's been confirmed. So every chance that rather than wasting a pick and potentially someone who's not going to be available week to week, being Stephen May, maybe you roll the dice on a Jacob Blight and put him on the rookie list. And then keep your primary list open. Currently, after my check is gone, we have 37 on the list total. 30 on a primary, 6 on a rookie, and 1 on a rookie B. McCarthy is an absolute priority. Essendon has been on illicit drugs again, just talking about it on 9 News. Why is number 20... Oh, sorry, Bruno. Good call. We can fix this, guys. We can fix this one. I might change this to Elliot because some people will see... I know some people will see Billy and I'll think, oh, that's Billy Frampton. This one is no longer orange. This one is white. Cool. That's accurate. Let's close this. Let's get rid of this one because that's no longer. Okay. I think our list is pretty much sorted. Parker might have had a trigger. Can somebody confirm if he's had a trigger for his contract? Are Melbourne looking to get anything for Oliver? Yeah, I mean, maybe they want this. But my check goes to them. We'll get a pick late in the 3rd or 4th, and we might send something back their way. But also, you'd like to think that this might be the pick that Melbourne want for Clayton Oliver. Because you have to remember, yes, they want him gone, but they're also saying, hey, we'll pay half his bloody salary. So they'd be pretty hopeful, the Ds, that they can get something back for Clayton Oliver, who at one stage in his career, if you only go back a couple years, would have been worth 2 first-round draft picks minimum. Buller and Oliver is happening. Blight, I'd be saying green, but not as confident as the ones above. Yeah, look, I'm only going to put players green once we know for fact that they're coming. We know for fact that McCarthy will be playing for the Collingwood Football Club. We know for fact that Buller has nominated Collingwood, so that's a starting point. Oliver has not nominated. Neither has... I mean, Blight doesn't need to nominate because he's a delisted free agent, but all we know is that Blight has done a medical. So until we hear a little bit more, I'm apprehensive to make this one green. Who do you think retires at the end of next year? Okay, what I'll do is this. Badri, let's do this. As far as who will retire next year, let's open up Wheelo ratings and let's have a look at our team right now. Let's go to Collingwood. All right. Let's have a look at this. Okay. Pendles retires next year. That's one. I'd say Jeremy Howe retires next year. Mason Cox might not even be on the list next year. Side bottom, I think you have to keep either side bottom or Pendles for 2027 to stagger. Do you agree? I'm going to make that a poll. Granted, form needs to be justified. Do you think we need to keep at least Pendles or Sidey in 2027 to ensure we don't lose too much experience? Yes, no, yes, we need to keep one. No, we can retire them both next year. All right, let's see how we go with that poll. I think that's an interesting question. No chance Pendles goes on again in 2027, and that's why I mean whether it's one or the other, right? Whether it's one or the other, still side bottom will be 35 next year. Means he's a chance to play in 2026. He was the fifth highest rated player for us according to Champion data. You can't include Tom Mitchell because he played 4 games. And Jack Crisp, according to Champion data, played well, but he was in, up and down, as was the rest of the side. But if we go back to age, so I would personally, I think Pendles, this is what I would like. I would like Pendles to retire next year and go into a coaching role immediately. Although I think he's going to have a gap year from memory from an article last year. Retire Pendles, retire Howe. Mason Cox won't be on the list. Keep side bottom. Keep Elliott. Tom Mitchell won't be on the list. Keep Jack Crisp. Myercheck gone. Hoskin Elliott retired. Tim Membry will retire. McStay, keep as of right now. And then everyone else keep. If a player is still good, their age doesn't matter. Look, I don't know if Pendles would want to play on beyond next year. He's achieved everything he could possibly achieve by the end of next year, hopefully securing the game's record for the league. I would be saying Jack Crisp a big chance to go next year as his best friends are Checkers and Will Hoskin and will only offer him 350. Maybe we're a long way away. Cass, add lift to our list player, 19th man according to coach. All right, Zach Dabb. I have a plan. Josh on the wing with Ed Allen. Let Houston play his game and control the back line of halfback, and Parker will help, and send Perriman inside mid and side bottom half forward a tagger. You're not too far off the mark. I wouldn't mind seeing Josh Dacos feature in the midfield a little bit more. Maybe even play midfield forward. I think he would go well in a role like that. Ed Allen is not a winger. Zach, I disagree with you there. Ed Allen at this point in time is an inside mid. He's been playing as an inside mid in the VFL ever since or at least for this year, right? I don't think he has the distribution and the cleanliness by foot to play on the wing. Perryman inside mid. Well, if Oliver comes, we won't necessarily need to force that. And then I challenge you guys. If Perryman was a top 5 BNF finish at the Copeland Trophy in the position that he occupied, and you get Clayton Oliver, I'm not so bothered. I'm not so willing to rush myself or rush Perryman to play in the midfield. I think you get Oliver for exactly that reason. Send McStay and Myercheck to Clayton Oliver. Mark. Pies have Charlie. Yep. So send McStay to Myercheck to Melbourne for Clayton Oliver. We won't be trading McStay. And I don't think Melbourne want to go super old. Remember, they're getting rid of some players to change the culture, to change the age demographic. To bring in Myercheck is bumping up their age, but because they know what he brings from a work ethic side on and off field, I think they're willing to risk giving him 2 years plus an incentive to potentially play a third year. Myercheck. Sorry about the caps. You're all good. Pyramid is fifth in the Copeland Trophy. Quiet achiever, as I keep saying. Yep, absolutely. I think Benny Zero had IQ top 5 at the start of the night. I had Perryman as my smoky for top 5. Sidey continues if he's a permanent forward. Pendles retires. I agree. I think it depends on how Sidey finishes off. So there's that as well, Badri, of course. Looking ahead, we're all saying, yes, Sidebottom is... We'd like to see him play on in 2027, but that is contingent on how he goes. He still needs to perform to warrant a contract at the end of the year, but would be nice if he could maintain some level of standard so that way we can stagger losing our experience and not losing all these players at once. Where like West Coast, I feel like they had a similar situation where injuries tied in with players retiring and all in a similar time frame has hurt them. I think same thing with Richmond. They've lost a bunch of players, haven't they? But I don't think Richmond are going to be at the bottom of the barrel for too much longer. I think they still had and have a handful of players who played in the premiership years, the dynasty period, and you can see that already rubbing off on the young kids this year. I mean, they won. How many games they win? 4 or 5 games this year, Richmond? Probably 4 or 5 more games than we all thought at the start of the season. Pendles and Sidey will be gone 2027. You can take that to the Greatness Bank. Love to see a captain coach player in the future like the old days. I think there's just too much responsibility there, Dom. Way too much, especially with the media commitments and other external commitments. I think it's a lot. Sydney rep today was absolutely spewing about Buller telling the club he wanted to go to Collingwood. And even before that interview today, Pie Man, I thought, geez, Sydney would be spewing their guts out that this guy wants to leave. They offered him a position in the back half of this year. He does well. He kicks 3 goals in his last game, albeit against West Coast. He's shown great competitive signs, a great competitive nature with some sort of, I wouldn't say X factor, but bloke's got sticky hands. As he's only 9 games into his career. They brought him in the mid-season draft a couple years ago. He's only scratching the surfaces of what's possible. And now they're going to have to find out about where Jack Buller goes from here, not wearing the red and white, which is a frustration because you put so much time and energy into somebody who you brought in through the mid-season draft. You'd like to think that player would appreciate and feel like they owe the club. But we know in this world, guys, nobody owes anything and nobody deserves. Just because you deserve or you're owed doesn't mean you're necessarily going to get it. And it's all's fair in love and war. Collingwood are going to take Jack Buller and hopefully he can be as good as what Sydney think he can become. Surely keep Membry at the end of 2026. Roman, it depends. It depends on Charlie West. It depends on Noah Howes. It depends on Tim Membry, how he goes next year as well. But if I had to take a punt, I'd say Tim Membry would retire at the end of next year. He's looking for a bat. Fraser Garrick. We have enough experience outside of Pendles and Sidey. We also have a whole year to handle the transition. Well, we're definitely taking some steps towards it with Myercheck and the hyphen gone. We'll probably see Tom Mitchell gone. Mason Cox probably gone. So the transition has well and truly started this year. And you're right. If we lose Sidey and Pendles, not the end of the world. We still have quite an experienced list. You know, Jamie Elliott. But you're throwing in Jeremy Howe next year, who will probably retire, right? And potentially Membry. So there's a big offloading there of older players. So it's just, all right. Yes, these guys are getting older, but let's not all lose them in the one phase. Oliver would be our first ginger since Jason Wild. What does Jason Wild look like? Jason Wild. I mean, is he ginger? Collingwood. This is Jason Ginger, for those who are wondering. I mean, yeah. Yeah? We saying he's ginger? Surely there's been another ginger other than this bloke. Looks like a ginger. How's the Guernsey? Unreal. Unreal that. Anyways, don't mind me. Love to see Josh forward of the ball a bit more. I mean, look at his brother, look at his dad, look at what Josh did when he was starting to come up for the first team. I think it's there. When does Di Mattia come in? Well, the good thing about Di Mattia, Blinker, is his contract isn't up until the end of 2027. So while he won the VFL Best and Fairest, and while he's had a really good year in the midfield as an inside mid, if I had to guess, I think Di Mattia gets somewhere between 5 to 10 games next year. That's my guess. Especially if Clayton Oliver comes in. I think there's a few things we'd want to try before thrusting Di Mattia into the midfield. Big mistake if we take Oliver slow inside mid, average foot skills, and doesn't defend. Fair. McStay looked dangerous in our forward line before he was injured. Jason Wild is a fellow ranger. Mason Cox has done his job well over the year, bringing the ball to ground, always being held in arm chops, but never paid to him. And that's something he's just going to have to live with, right? He's just, if he plays on next year at whichever club it may be, Collingwood, Essendon, whatever it is, North Melbourne, he's just going to have to deal with his hands being held. David King was gingerish. McCreary's kind of ginger. Wild got a lot of footy and tough, but was a terrible kick. Do you think... I don't know where Cox will go. I don't know where Cox will go, Chris. I have an idea. An educated guess. A guess. Buller, the next Anthony Rocker? Nah, different players, my friend. Mark, different players. I heard Sydney were only played Jack Buller for the last 9 games of the year as they knew we were into him to up his trade value. Nah, I don't buy into that, Josh, because he played in some massive games where Sydney needed to win. So he played against GWS, right? And they needed to win that game. They lost that game. And he played a couple games before that, if I'm not mistaken. So there's no way known that you're playing a player who might not be up to it, so you can up their trade value while you're still trying to make finals that year. That makes zero sense. Wherever you heard that has to be garbage. And I'm telling you, I've just said what I said. There's no way Sydney want to let go of Jack Buller. Like, they've got players who are daring to take they've got forwards who haven't really truly established themselves as the guys. Like, Amadi shows signs. Logan McDonald's been up and down, injured. McCartan was tried in the forward line. McLean's he's a third key tool. Yes, they might get their man Charlie Curnow, but I'm sure that once again they would have liked to have seen Jack Buller in the red and white for at least another year, especially given the fact that they had drafted him in the mid-season period a couple years ago. Ned Long's off-season needs to consist of learning to kick off his left foot. Opposition slowly found this out and would always force him to play on his left. Well, he would always check side it with his right boot. And I think sometimes if your name isn't Nick Dacos or Josh Dacos or Scott Pendlebury or Bobby Hill, I don't think you should be willing to check side the ball every single time when you're on the left side, check siding with your right boot all the time. I don't rate that if your name is Ned Long. Yeah, so in that case, learn to use your left, for sure. Do we remember Scratcher Neil from Geelong? He wasn't ginger, he was orange. No, I don't remember, Dom. I'm certain Jason Wild was Tony Shaw's son, only way he kept getting a game. They were even going Aaron Francis before him. They were going Aaron Francis before him as they didn't rate him. Well, maybe they just wanted to give Aaron Francis his final chance to prove himself, and then they go, all right, well, next in line, Jack Buller. You don't just get given games at AFL level. 9 games in a side who, 1, were still in finals contention. 2, even when they weren't in finals contention, they wanted to do everything they can to have good momentum going into the next year. Remember Collingwood last year, at the end of last year, when we didn't really have much of a chance to make finals after the, let's say, maybe it was the Hawthorn game where it felt like our finals opportunity was done. Sydney, when we lost to Sydney, that really was the end of it. But then we went on, we beat Brisbane, we beat Melbourne. There is something about finishing your season strong and taking that form into the preseason and into the start of the season, right? Strawny was Ginger also. I like that. I heard murmurings about 2-meter Peter maybe wanting out of Essendon. Could you see him fitting in at Collingwood? Good question. I have put no thought to that. Firstly, what's his contract? Footy Wire. So he's 29. He's 30 next year. Contracted till 2027. What type of contract? I mean, we'd have to trade for him. We'd have to trade for him. I'm not completely opposed to it, but then it does kind of take away from flirting with names like Charlie West and Noah Howes and your McStay's still there, Membry's still there. Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. I wouldn't dismiss it. Add a contract at the end of 2027. So, like I said, a trade would need to be facilitated. Yeah. He'll be 30 next year. Been up and down, hasn't he? I mean, how did he go this season anyways? Just out of curiosity. Peter Wright. Yeah, I don't know if people, and I haven't looked at the chat yet, but I don't know if people like the idea of Peter Wright taking up Charlie West's airtime next year. So we played 19 games this year. He took 1.5 contested marks per game, and he kicked 28 goals, which is like 1.5 a game for a team that really struggled. I'm gonna lean on the side of no. Yeah, I'm gonna lean on the side of no. When you factor in, we're gonna need picks for Buller, we're gonna need picks for Oliver, and we're gonna need picks for McCarthy. So I'd probably say no when we look at the whole thing. Wire Trip, thank you, my friend. Welcome to the Pies Footy membership members club. I appreciate your support, man. Thank you so much. I thought we beat Sydney. No, we lost to Sydney last year at the end of the season by like 1 point or something. We were up by like 4.5 goals in the fourth quarter. Peter Wright would slay at Collingwood. I still rate him with good ball movement. He's unstoppable. Like I said, I'm not completely opposed to it, but I just wonder if you've just gotten rid of Myercheck, and although we wanted to keep him, it's a maybe. It's a maybe. It's not an absolute no. I wanted Peter Wright back when he left Gold Coast. We were going for him, but it was during our cap purge, so we couldn't get him. Chris Talbot says, I don't want any Essendon players in the trade period. Hearing the Sydney guy talk about Buller, they definitely thought more of him than just upping his value because Pies are interested. You can hear it in his tone. They're disappointed massively. Agreed. Zach Butters and Nick Dacus would be the greatest 1-2 midfield punch the game has ever seen. It would be a sight to behold. So one can only hope, right? One can only hope. Also, with Buller, we have an opportunity to build and mold him to be a key forward with West needing more time and experience under his belt. We have Buller to take the reins until West is ready. So you got Buller and McStay and Membry, and then you're hoping for Charlie West to absolutely break out. A little less than that, Noah Howes is somewhere there in the picture. I guess you got to remember that everyone's got their poker face on for the trade period. You got to know when to hold them accountable. We need the Laughing Magpie. Benny, hope you're well, mate. Haven't seen that name in a while. We need some stoppage craft, so Clary would be good. McRae will give him a good kick up the ass. Yep. Wright is very inconsistent, turns up one game and goes missing for the next 5. If it's a rookie spot, then can't really go wrong, but you'd only get him if he's super cheap. But the problem is he's under contract, so he's got another year to play, so Essendon won't delist him. Therefore, you'd need to trade for Peter Wright. And if he's got a year left on his contract, I want to know how much he's being paid and how much Collingwood would need to pay for that. Somebody said they heard. Did somebody say they heard Peter Wright is linked to Collingwood? Or did somebody say, what do you think about Peter Wright? Peter Wright was a Pies supporter too. Somebody tell me. What else are we saying? If we get Clary, I hope he plays well and we don't have any issues with him off field. Otherwise, we have wasted 5 years on him. Be an interesting one, that's for sure. By the way, back to the poll. Do you think we need to keep at least Pendles or Sidey in 2027 to ensure we don't lose too much experience? It's literally 50-50. Yes, we need to keep one of those two players in 2027. And then the other 50% say no, we can retire both of them at the end of next year. You know what? Thinking about it though, something feels right. Something feels right about seeing Sidebottom and Pendles walking off the MCG in their final game together, sailing off into the sunset dinner next year. It would be weird seeing Sidey playing without Pendles for a year, and vice versa. It'd be weird seeing Pendles playing without Sidey for a year. It seems like they were born to play pretty much in the same period of time. Because Pendles was drafted at the end of 2005, right? End of 2005. And then Sidey was drafted at the end of 2009. So besides those 4 years, they've obviously played together for their entire career. As far as I can remember anyways. I mean, I can't quite remember I remember the 2010s, so I was going to say, I don't really remember that period where they didn't play for 4 years. Actually, I'm going to say that when they didn't play together for 4 years, I don't quite remember that period. So all I know is Sidebottom and Pendlebury playing together. Won't be walking off. Definitely carried off. Absolutely. Hopefully with some medallions hanging around their neck for one time. One time for the one time. Just throw it back one more. Let them walk off with 3 premierships next to their name. I don't see Sidey playing on without Pendles. Yeah, like I said, there's something, the sentiment of seeing them two finishing their career off together in the same season just seems right. Badri, aside from Blight, who are some defensive targets I feel like we're weak depth-wise? Reef is going to be in there. I keep saying Noah Hauser, and I know he's a mid-season draftee, and he's only played the VFL, but he's being tried in the forward line, he's being tried in the back line, so there's that. I don't know how far it goes, because we don't want Stephen May. We didn't want to pay overs for Jack Silvani, so maybe we're confident that at times throughout the year, when we are looking a bit slim in the back line, we can play small and still do a job. I don't know. Sounds good about side in a forward line. If Oliver puts his head to it, and with Nick Dacos playing beside him, not inside him, he's capable of getting another All-Australian selection. I agree. Clayton Oliver with the right mindset, with a massive off-season and pre-season, playing at the Collingwood Football Club next to Nick Dacos, who makes anyone look much better than what they are. Look at Ned Long. I think we could see something special from a Clayton Oliver. And that's how you have to think as a Collingwood fan. Not to the point of delusion, but you think, okay, what's the best possible outcome for Collingwood and the Clayton Oliver situation. But then conversely, you have to say, what's the worst case? He goes off the rails with his lifestyle, but that would be against the grain because his last 2 seasons from a professional element have been pretty consistent and pretty quiet, right? He's played 2 years of consistent footy. I haven't heard his name in the headlines a great deal. Yes, he might have a bit of an attitude problem. I mean, people point to when he was abusing Mitch Cleary at the airport, but how pleased would you be with a journo hunting you down after you've just been told while you're on your holiday or you've been called in on your break that you're no longer wanted or play a different role, and then you're going to Sydney for a holiday, and then you got somebody, asking you and provoking you to get a reaction out. I'd probably tell the journo to go fuck himself too and stick his head up where the sun don't shine, but that's me. Iluru Smith's another one, but yeah, greatness. I haven't mentioned the Big Ruse name because he's had a couple okay games in the VFL as a defender, but he's very quiet statistically, and even when the ball's around, I just don't see it so much. So I'm reserving that name for the preseason. Let's see a little bit more in the preseason, and we'll go from there. Does he even stay in the back line? Does he get tried as a forward? Do we want him to be a ruck? Did we only play him in the back line so we can develop that defensive half intercept marking craft so that when he goes back into the ruck, he can emulate that of Darcy Cameron? Anyways, ladies and gents, I appreciate you all for being here on this Monday evening. We'll see you tomorrow at 6 p.m. for another Pies Presser. Day 2 of the trade period as well. Thank you all for being here. And as always, go Pies.